Welcome to the Quickie podcast from TheLead Sports. Today's episode is brought to you by MyBookie. They say nothing in life is free, but right now they're giving away free money to first-time sign-ups over at mybookie.ag. All you do is go over to mybookie.ag, type in the promo code LEAD50, L-E-A-D, all capital letters, and you get a 50% signing bonus. They'll match your deposit with 50% free money. Football season is about to be upon us. We're previewing the NFL. Soccer season already is. Don't miss this chance to go join the great folks at MyBookie. MyBookie.ag, promo code LEAD50. As I mentioned, this is the Quickie podcast from TheLead Sports. It's a micro podcast where we tell you everything you need to know about a given subject in 12 minutes or less. In between now and the beginning of the NFL season, we are all NFL preview all the time here at the Quickie. I'm Matt Keller. I'm managing editor of TheLead, and my co-host Tim Livingston and I, he's the editor-in-chief, CEO, and founder of TheLead. We're going to be doing all sorts of fun stuff on the Quickie podcast between now and the first game of the NFL season, starting with a division-by-division breakdown of the league. Enjoy. This is the Quickie podcast from TheLead Sports, and we are continuing to preview the NFL season division by division. He's Tim Livingston. He's the founder, editor-in-chief, CEO of TheLead. I'm Matt Keller, managing editor. And today we are talking about the NFC West. Always an interesting division, formerly great, no longer. It seems like forever ago that Colin Kaepernick and Jim Harbaugh were one of the 2 or 3 best quarterback-coach combinations in the league, doesn't it, Tim?
That seems like eons ago. Eons. That seems like another lifetime.
What are those two guys up to these days?
Well, one of them's working.
It's really a Seattle division.
Yeah.
It's just a question of what the other teams can do. Arizona's mildly interesting. Then we got 2 bottom dwellers who are trying to turn around as quickly as possible. We go through the same questions for every division. We start off with the best unit in the division. It's clearly Seattle's defense. We both think Seattle's going to win the league. That's the next question. Let's start with what are their records going to be, and then what are the next 3 teams going to be?
So I have Seattle at 12-4, Arizona at 8-8, the Rams at 6-10. I think the Rams will make a mild step forward this year. I think Goff will be better. And San Francisco at 4-12, which I think is actually good for the talent that they have on their roster.
I have the same order, same records for the Seahawks, basically the same. Player you would pay to watch in this division. This one's interesting. I've changed it around a couple times already.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's not that many dynamic players. So I would actually pay to watch Jared Goff, which I'm interested to see if he's going to be good or not. It's not because of his dynamic playmaking ability yet, but it might be. It's more just, and we live in LA, so it's a good one because I can literally pay to see him. But I'm interested to see whether or not Goff has what it takes to be a top flight NFL quarterback.
I'm going with Honey Badger.
Ooh,
I love watching him play. Him and Pat Pete, it's fun down there.
Sometimes I get jealous of your answers. Yeah, Honey Badger's a good one.
Player you'd most want on your team. Your favorite team's the Cleveland Browns. Mine's the New England Patriots. We're not saying best player in the division. We're very specifically picking players that we both want on our teams long term.
Aaron Donald, but Honey Badger as a close second.
Ooh, now I'm jealous of your answer. Aaron Donald. Okay, he's holding out, which I think may lead to some disappointments we'll get to in a second. So I'll take Michael Bennett. He's still young enough. It's also eye of the beholder. He fucking killed us in the Super Bowl. Unblockable. And I know Belichick loves to use guys like that. You can use him inside and outside. He's really versatile for a defensive lineman who can rush the passer.
And intelligent and interesting and everything else that you like.
Yeah, no, I love the guy.
Why don't you go make out with Michael Bennett, Matt?
Okay. Not my type. Not tall enough.
Too much facial hair.
The only other person I would say might be Cliff Averill to Michael Bennett. Averill, Michael Bennett, and Richard Sherman were the people I had, all from the same defense.
Yep.
Breakout player.
I guess you got to go with Goff.
I have Goff as mine.
I think Goff's going to have a good year. I was definitely higher on Wentz and still am higher on Wentz, but I think Goff with an offense that is more catered to his skill set, better talent around him, better coaching in general. I think he's got a shot now. If Goff doesn't make a big step forward this year, then same as Mariota. It's
hard, yeah. But I wouldn't even put them in the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mariota's making a step from good young player to
great.
Yeah, or maybe a 2-year step to great, but getting halfway there this year at least. Goff just has to show us that he is a prospect. This is the year where we decide whether Goff is someone you build your team around or someone...
Or Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, exactly. And look, you've been down on him. I've been up on him from what we know about his college tape and just going into the draft in this past year. But not to toot our own horn, but what we pride ourselves on here at TheLead, in part, is the ability not to have black or white thinking. I mean, we can change our minds. It's not illegal, despite what you might take from Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless or whoever it is. I'm open to the possibility that Goff won't be that good, and you're open to the possibility that he might. The things I like the most are, we talked about it before, is accuracy and decision-making in close spaces. Long throwing is the most overrated thing for a quarterback.
Yep.
The fact that he went 0-11 his first year at Cal and took 1 million sacks and stood in there and took it. The fact that Jeff Fisher is gone and he has a QB whisperer, new coach who may not succeed. He's 30 fucking years old, younger than us, but he's better for Goff.
Yep.
So I think Goff is the breakout player. Disappointment.
The Cardinals as a whole.
Okay. Well, go deeper into that.
So I think Carson Palmer is done. And I think that team, unfortunately, because when we all watched them on All or Nothing, the Amazon show, I think you kind of fell in love with Bruce Arians and you fell in love with this team. They all seem like awesome guys. I think they're done. I mean, they had a shitty year last year, but I think this year they have a shitty year too. I don't think they're a playoff team, and I think that whole roster
is it mostly Palmer based? Because they have a roster full of talent.
They have a really talented roster, but I think their quarterback. Again, Larry's Larry. Larry's not fast anymore, but he's still Larry. He's essentially like a tight end receiver hybrid at this point, but he's still fantastic. I just don't think, unless the O-line does, which is possible, does an incredible job, I think Carson is done, and I think the team is an 8-8 team.
Interesting. It's a lot of talent to go 8-8, but if your QB is done, your QB is done. Is there any chance... I wonder if it's even possible for Byron Leftwich to quit his job as QB coach and play QB for them if Palmer is dead. Because he's younger than Palmer.
Is he
Maybe
really?
Palmer switches with him and becomes the QB coach, and Byron Leftwich becomes the starting quarterback. Just something to keep in mind.
Well, they have Blaine Gabbert as their number 3 now, which is actually interesting.
Yeah,
so, maybe you
watch
throw
out for
Blaine back in there.
And who's number 2?
Stanton.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that's ugly. That's an ugly QB situation.
That's ugly.
So my disappointment is a little, I don't know if I'm cheating, but it's a little unorthodox. I put Aaron Donald just because I think the holdout is going to hurt him. It's going to go into the regular season, and the only way to get enough reps to be a devastating defensive lineman all game, getting sacks well into December with all the plays they run in the NFL these days, is to have your legs working from early in the offseason. I'll probably end up looking stupid because Aaron Donald's probably the guy who does 10,000 leg lifts on the Santa Monica beach while he's holding out, and he works even harder than he does at the training facility. Complete possibility, but I think it's hard without the NFL training camp to get your legs under you as a pass rusher.
You're going to be the dad who your son or daughter is going to bring home a report card with 6 A's and a B and AP world government or something, and you're going to be so pissed.
Well,
your definition then. your definition of disappointment is ridiculous.
Todd Gurley would also be on that list if you're expecting anything from him at all.
Do you think Gurley is a bounce back candidate this year? If that offense can actually move the ball and
that's my point. If you're
expecting
him to be a bounce back, then he's a disappointment because I don't think he will be.
Agreed.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. It's Gurley's just. I don't know. He's an old school running back. He may have used his best legs. There may be injuries, wear and tear. I'd like to see him have a comeback, but I'm just not buying it. Fantasy sleeper for the NFC West, I should say.
Ooh, how about Jimmy Graham coming back and being an elite tight end in fantasy? I like Jimmy Graham. I also like Pierre Garçon on San Francisco, so I'm going to go with Garçon as a safer bet. Again,
I like the Garçon pick. That's a good one.
Matt, I think my entire fantasy team is going to be shitty team's number 1 receiver. I think
you got onto a nice little strategy here.
Yeah, so Garçon, looking at SF's depth chart, I don't see who else is going to fucking catch passes for him. I've always liked the talent. He's still got his speed. I'm going to go with Pierre Garçon.
I'm going to steal your philosophy. Robert Woods.
Ooh.
And Goff. Woods and Goff, depending on where you're drafting and what positions you need. I think they're both going to be better than people are expecting fantasy-wise, so I'll put it that way.
Agreed. I really like Woods, especially as a possession receiver. Do you think Sammy Watkins has a good year this year?
I don't think he will ever be as good as people thought he was going to be, and I just don't think he has it in him to be as good as people think he has it in him from his elite talent in college.
From his foot injuries, man. Like he's a receiver with bad feet. It sucks. But
I don't think he'll be as good as the hype possibly will be built around him, but I think he'll have a decent year. I would call it slightly above average for a replacement value player. Memorial Day weekend in LA, prime of the off season, a wonderful time for NFL players out here. If you could trade places with one person in this division to enjoy that weekend, who would it be?
Used to be Russell Wilson, but obviously he is taken now. So
please let the listeners know that's a joke.
Yes, 100%. Honey Badger for sure is who I'd want to be out here in LA. Recognizable, so much like fun dude, good looking dude. You know, I'm sure he gets in all sorts of, non-marijuana related trouble.
I heard he's a straight edge now because of when he came out of the draft, he had to clean up his act. So
straight edge means no hard drugs. Man.
I want to smoke weed over Memorial Day weekend in L.A. It's legal. I'm an NFL player. Richard Sherman.
Ooh,
he's from L.A. I thought about taking Moses Bread, my man Michael Bennett, so he can hang out with his brother. You know, that would be fair because I took his brother on the NFC North one. I'm going to go Richard Sherman. We did see him in L.A. once, and he looked really angry, but we're also after the ESPYs, and maybe he was just on his way to an after party. So Richard Sherman, I guarantee you, has a good time when he comes down there. And,
yes, he does.
And he knows all sorts of interesting people. He's from Compton. He comes from a really interesting family. Like, I'm sure he could give you a tour of all the parts of L.A. that, honestly, as a newcomer and a boring white guy, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a really interesting weekend with Richard Sherman.
I like it.
That's it for the NFC West. This is the Quickie Podcast. He's Tim. I'm Matt, and we'll be back soon with another. This is the Quickie Podcast from TheLead Sports, and we are continuing our NFL division-by-division preview. He's Tim Livingston, founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief of TheLead. I'm Matt Keller, managing editor, and we are talking NFC North. It's a good division this year, huh?
Oh, yeah, really good division.
Pretty good.
Minus Mike Glennon and co.
Yes.
Jeez,
I think there's some interesting angles and tidbits to this division that we're going to get to, though. First, let's just start with the best unit, as usual.
Vikings defense.
Agreed. And then second, Packers offense.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who do you have? And this is tough. Who do you have winning? Because I went back and forth with this one a lot.
I have the Packers. I think the Packers are going to be solid this year. I don't think there's going to be any fucking around. I think they're going to come out and win a lot of football. I think 12-4,
okay.
And they win. And then Detroit and Minnesota, it's kind of a coin flip. I think they'll both be okay. I think I'm just not a big Sam Bradford guy.
So that's why you're not. Because I was considering putting Minnesota in the first slot. Then I said Rodgers, Bradford, that's tough. You got to put... I have Green Bay at 11-5, but then Minnesota at 10-6.
I think that's fair. And I think... I like Minnesota's team.
I like the
Sam
coach.
Bradford. Yeah. I love Zimmer. And I like the team. I like Diggs. I like Thielen on the outside. I think Dalvin Cook, I think we can all agree he's going to be a monster. So, yeah, I really like the Vikings team. And I think Detroit could be okay. They're intriguing, too, you know.
I think Stafford might take a step back. He will have to eventually. But your point, I think you make the best point. It's they have a good team. They have a good coach. They have a good defense. They're well-rounded, and everything rests on Bradford, and we fucking heard that before, and it didn't work out. So, yeah. Green Bay.
No, he's done nothing over the course of his career to convey to me in any way that he can be a top 15 NFL quarterback.
No.
Nothing.
I mean,
and body language, too. I mean, with all these guys, like Sam Bradford inspires his leadership qualities are zill.
Yeah, it's like Dalton.
Yeah.
That if you've ever heard that famous clip of him firing his team up before a Patriots game, and then they play one from Brady, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. This guy's got a different level of passion. Yeah, Dalton's like, we have a above average chance of winning this game.
Let's
can
go,
do it. And Tom Brady, you realize how fucking competitive that guy is.
He's crazy. Crazy fucker.
Yeah. Bradford has the same thing as Dalton, where it's like they're okay, they have some tools, but they're not inspiring.
Who would you pay the most to watch in this division? It's an interesting. It's not a high flying division in terms of skill players, but you already mentioned the guy on my list. But I'll let you go first.
Besides Mitch Trubisky, I would pay to watch just to see how big of a disaster that would be. Yeah, Mike Glennon. I think Trubisky's actually going to be decent. I think obviously I shouted him a lot before the draft.
Trubisky is my breakout player because it's gone so far. And if he is a decent QB this year as a starter and a rookie, and everyone says, "Hey, he did a pretty good job," then we're going to look at him pretty fondly compared to what his reputation was coming in. Agreed.
I think Amir Abdullah is somebody who I'm really intrigued by this year. Obviously, Rodgers is the easy answer, but Dalvin Cook
I got Dalvin Cook as the guy I would pay.
I think both those guys could have really big years if they stay healthy.
I mean, who else in that division even? So Rodgers is the obvious choice. Dalvin Cook, Abdullah.
Nobody gives a shit about Stafford.
Yeah.
Bradford's a joke.
Yeah.
Mike Glennon is going to be the laughingstock of the NFL after 2 weeks.
Yeah. Even if Trubisky's decent, he's not going to be worth watching, quote unquote, or pay to see. I don't think you'd ever want to pay to see him.
Yeah, there's a couple of intriguing running backs, and yeah, that's about it.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Certainly not a lot. Most one on your team. So you're a Cleveland Browns fan, and that means that there's any position basically besides maybe left tackle or DN you want on your team. So I guess it's Rodgers. Is that the obvious one?
That's the tough part with all these for me, or the easy part for me. Could you imagine if the Browns got fucking Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I think he's got 7 good years left at least.
We'd win 6 games. It would be awesome. So yeah, Aaron, and then I would have had to,
They go 8-8 at least if they have Rodgers this year. The Browns.
I agree. Yeah, he's that good. He's that much better.
They're not that empty
than Cody Kessler and Brock Osweiler. I can't believe they haven't cut Brock yet.
Brock compared to Aaron Rodgers is a fun comparison.
So yeah, Aaron Rodgers for me. How about you?
Once again, Patriots. I'm looking for very specific things to complement this year's team. I would take Xavier Rhodes.
Yep.
He's a great cornerback. You can never have enough. If we had 3 lockdown cornerbacks, that would make up for a lack of pass rush.
Somebody was shitting on Xavier Rhodes the other day. I was like, did you not watch him play? He's a fucking monster.
It's weird. Like, you get people shitting on him, and then you get advanced stats saying he's great. I think he's pretty damn good. I also said Daniel Hunter, who had a lot of sacks, but I don't think that's not necessarily like a year-to-year proven thing yet.
I mean, Xavier Rhodes in the Viking games I watched last year was fantastic. He was a number 1 shutdown corner, big, strong, physical guy.
He's my guy.
He's a guy to guard the Des Bryant, Julio Jones type receiver that can fucking eat you alive in a playoff game.
Because Butler and Gilmore are both on the smaller side. So imagine Butler as your slot corner, Gilmore on the left or on the smaller receiver. And then
Xavier Rhodes guarding
on the bigger, and basically Butler can go wherever you want and cover whoever you want with that athletic, aggressive.
This is where every listener's not a Patriots fan. It's just like, fuck you, you greedy fuck.
Breakout player.
Ooh, Dalvin Cook. I mean, come on.
Okay, I almost said that I had him, and then I was like, well, I had him as most fun to watch. Little obvious, but
it's hard not to be high on him. I mean, he looks just. So good.
I was high on him coming into the draft. I'm not a big guy taking a first-round running back, but if he's actually a receiver, then that changes the game. And if you can be a running back and a receiver, I think he's going to have a better NFL career than Leonard Fournette.
I agree. I would put if I were betting right now, I would put Cook and McCaffrey 1A, 1B, and then Fournette. I think Fournette's in a crappy situation. I could see him getting. It's the same as LSU.
I think he'll have a couple good seasons of like 1,000 yards, but it just won't be. He's in the shitty. You're right. He doesn't catch passes. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The NFL's changing.
Yeah, exactly.
And he has a lot of
McCaffrey coming out of the backfield in motion. Good luck.
He's a receiver.
That's what
McCaffrey's
saying.
A receiver.
Oh, he's a slot receiver.
Yeah.
He's going to become
Edelman.
Yeah.
Or he's got better moves.
He's honestly like Welker in his prime, but better. Like that's how good McCaffrey is.
But with more of a running back body and moves. The moves are. He's going to be like Reggie Bush. Yeah. Reggie Bush is the best comparison. Reggie Bush had 90 catches his 3rd year in the league, and he was like around 1,000 yards rushing, but he didn't get that many carries, but he had 90 catches.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think he's a better downhill runner than Reggie, though.
Yeah, he could be, but I guess I just mean, well, we haven't seen him in the NFL yet. We've seen a little exhibition action, which he looked good, but not great. But in terms of making people miss in college, playing on the West Coast, capturing our imagination, there's a lot of similarities.
Agreed.
I think the NFL's smarter about how to use a player like that now.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, back to the NFC North. My breakout player is Trubisky just because we don't think much from him. He looked good in the preseason. I think the one thing he has going for him is that he's accurate.
Yeah.
So that could make up for a lot. And if he's okay, he's a breakout player. Disappointment. I'll go first here. I got, I don't know if Stafford counts, but he's on my list. The other guy I had was Martellus Bennett.
I was going to say, Bennett was my guy. I mean,
so we agree on Martellus and Stafford, really.
Yeah, those are my two. Stafford will take a step back for sure. And then Bennett, it's just funny to think that Aaron Rodgers, over the course of his career, has never really liked throwing to tight ends, and now he's going to start? No, I don't.
But he's had a lot of decent, but not great ones.
I mean, Jermichael Finley in his prime was a really good tight end.
Bennett also has more value than as just a pass catcher.
Yeah.
To me, he's a tough, run-blocking, athletic leader who plays injured, brings a good team spirit, opens up running holes, and whatever you get receiving from him, it's not a bonus because he is a pass catcher, but if you can get 40 catches from him in 16 games and good blocking and a few TDs, I would say that's a win. I just think he's not going to be as good as people think he is going to be. Tight ends are getting older. He plays injured a lot, which shortens your career.
Yeah.
Fantasy sleeper?
Ooh. I think Abdul is a good one. On the Bears, I really like Cameron Meredith.
Okay.
It's probably my fantasy sleeper for this division. Again, I think you can, in the last, as we went through the AFC East and the NFC North, bad team's number one receiver, those guys still catch passes. So they're not guys you take high, but if the team turns out to be decent, like Josh McCown's going to throw the ball to somebody.
Exactly. Yards happen, especially when the teams are getting blown out. A lot of yards happen. Like
Exactly.
The Jets.
So Cameron Meredith.
I got a guy you already mentioned, Adam Thielen from Minnesota. Number 2 receiver, he should be. Once again, yards happen. They may be less in Minnesota because they have such a good defense. They're not going to get into shootouts, but they have to throw to someone. And Bradford can throw it. It's just a question of sometimes where it's going.
He likes Thielen more than Stephon Diggs based on a small sample size last year.
There you go. Player you trade places with, we already mentioned him. For me, it's Bennett. I mean, he just seems like... You hang out with Martellus Bennett, or you are Martellus Bennett in Labor Day weekend, you get to hang out with his brother Michael. He spends a lot of time in L.A., interesting people, party, fun, meeting, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just a cool crowd.
I'll go with the 6'4", uber athletic, handsome kid from Loyola High School and UCLA, Anthony Barr.
There we go. This has been the NFC North preview from the Quickie podcast, and we'll be back soon with more. As always, the Quickie podcast is brought to you by MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag and type in the code LEAD50 for a 50% deposit bonus. LEAD, all capital letters, 50 for a 50% deposit bonus. It's free money. Don't turn it down. This is the Quickie podcast from TheLead, and we are continuing to preview the NFL season, division by division. He's Tim Livingston, founder, CEO, editor-in-chief of TheLead. I'm Matt Keller, managing editor, and this is fun. We're here on the Quickie podcast, and we're breaking down divisions our way.
Or the highway. Get the fuck out of here if you don't like it.
Speaking of highways, the Western United States is full of them, and we are doing the AFC West.
Fire segue, Matt. Fire. Your fucking segues have been on point.
And I have driven from Kansas City to Denver to L.A.
There you go.
Who am I missing? Oakland. Oakland wasn't part of that trip.
No, that would be...
Vegas. Yes, I went through Vegas. They're going to be in Vegas soon. I went through Vegas on that trip.
That's going to become like an actual thing. I would love to do that trip and see an NFL game in each spot. If I ever have a month to take off ever again in my life, which I won't, but maybe one day.
I think it's going to be more like we bring this show on the road and do it.
Oh, good call. And we'll just... Oh, God, I'm going to get so drunk when Oakland plays in Vegas and just be so careful because so many people are going to die at those games.
Seriously, that's a death wish waiting to happen.
Yeah.
There's some really strong individual units in this division. Who's the best?
I'm going to go with Oakland's offense. Really like Oakland's offense. I think they're going to be even better this year. I think Amari is going to have a huge year. I'm going to go with Oakland offense, but I have a feeling you're going to throw a curveball and go with maybe Denver's defense?
Yeah, I'll go with Denver's defense. I'm still blown away by their talent. He's not my number one pick, but Shane Ray is a big breakout candidate for me to replace the DeMarcus Ware pass rush. Von Miller is all over my list of superlatives, and the cornerback combination, to me, with that violent cheap shot artist but great safety Ward back there, Aqib Talib and Chris Harris are just awesome, and I love them. And it's such a hard matchup when you're playing against them and they have two lockdown cornerbacks and a pass rush.
Yeah.
Kept the Patriots out of the Super Bowl at least once.
Yeah. No, I mean, Denver's the obvious choice. I think Oakland's offense might be a little bit better than Denver's defense here. I think they're going to be really good, so we will see.
So Oakland wins the division?
Yeah.
Chiefs won last year.
I have Oakland 1, KC 2, Denver 3, Chargers 4. I think all teams will be above 8-8.
I have about the same. What's Oakland's record?
11-5.
I have the same exact thing. We didn't even compare notes. But
I think these teams are going to beat each other up a lot, and I can see the winner of this division winning it all this year.
Are you with me that it's not being made a big enough story, Denver wasting their great defense by having shitty quarterbacks? Like, I said it on Twitter, and people were like, Tampa Bay with Doug Johnson and Trent Dilfer and Baltimore. It's like, okay, first of all, those defenses were better than this one, at least by a little bit. They got lucky. The NFL is different.
Well, part of the deal,
should I keep going on?
But part of I totally think that, okay, I think that argument is 100% legitimate. I do think, however, that given the retarded nature of NFL salary caps, that the fact they had to pay Von Miller, Demaryius Thomas, everybody else on their defense, that they had to allocate so much money elsewhere really hinders their ability to get a top-flight quarterback. It's hard getting top-flight quarterbacks. And actually, skipping ahead, my fantasy sleeper this year is Trevor Siemian. I think Trevor could be okay this year. We'll see.
Interesting. So we'll skip ahead a little bit too. My biggest disappointment is Paxton Lynch.
Yep.
So he's already looks bad in preseason. And this was the answer to this question I asked of why are you wasting your prime of a great, great, great defense that you won't be able to get back. These guys aren't getting any younger, Von Miller or Aqib Talib. Whoever, the idea is we have a decent veteran. We offered money to Osweiler, which they're happy he didn't take. They have a decent veteran in Siemian, and we drafted this young guy in Paxton Lynch. It looks like Paxton Lynch is not the answer. So it really comes down to Siemian. If he's your fantasy sleeper, then maybe he is good enough to do it. I question the lack of criticism. I question the lack of effort on Elway's point of view to get someone in there. I don't know how hard they pushed on Romo. If I was them, I would consider Kaepernick. I would consider other people, maybe even Cutler going back there before he signed. I just think they're not treating it as a big deal as it is.
I agree. And I think that's got to be frustrating for Denver fans. I think there is this thing in the NFL where you have a window after winning a Super Bowl where you don't have to go as big as if Denver didn't win in 2015, then they wouldn't be going as big as they are now. I think Paxton Lynch I didn't like him coming out of college. You know why, Matt? Because he's
6'8".
He's 6'8". He's not an accurate short field passer, which Trevor Siemian is, which, again, for our criteria, the modern quarterback, can you get rid of the ball quickly to the right receiver and accurately within 25 yards?
And a pass rush doesn't bother you. Like, those are the real thing. It's all about short, accurate passing, timeliness.
Yeah. So when you look at a guy like Paxton Lynch, I don't know what Elway saw in him, but I really thought that was a stupid pick when he took him.
Real quick, just to intercede, who are the NFL quarterbacks who've ever been good without having those skills?
Nobody.
I think if you want to say Cam and Roethlisberger, those are the closest to me, but both of them can extend the play. Cam is probably the biggest athlete ever to play the position. Roethlisberger, people bounce off him, and they both have amazing downfield accuracy. It's like throwing a 5-yard out to throw a 30-yard out.
Yeah.
So they don't rely on that as much.
Yeah. No, and Roethlisberger can throw, and they can. They're just not Tom Brady, but they can make good short field. Like they're good quarterbacks. They can do it. Sure. They can do it all.
A player you would pay to watch in this division?
I mean, there's a lot actually in this division. I think Von Miller is my number one.
Me too.
I love Amari Cooper. Really excited to see what he does this year.
Is he going to be good or great? That's my question.
Well, I think this is another break.
He had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think last year there were so many plays where he caught it, and he caught it like deep in the red zone and got tackled at the 4-yard line, and then Crabtree stole it, or Latavius Murray stole it, or whoever stole it. So yeah, I think he could be great, and I think this year could be like a 15 touchdown year if all goes right for Amari. So Von Miller is just probably my favorite player in the NFL. I just am always awestruck by how much of a fucking beast he is, how he just makes offensive linemen look like little bitches. It's amazing.
And he's not even that big. So Von Miller is number one on the players I'd pay the most to watch. He's also number one on, we're both picking the player we would most want for our teams. You have the Cleveland Browns, who need almost everything. I have the Patriots, who need very specific holes to fill, i.e. pass rusher. He's number one on both those lists, and Aqib Talib is number two on both those lists, just because what they bring. Talib was awesome on the Patriots. They could use another corner, but they could really use a guy who, to your point, everyone in the building knows this guy is trying to get a sack on any passing down. You can double team him, triple team him, stack your defense towards him, and he still puts up the numbers. That's the crazy part to me. And he does it in important moments. If you look at where his sacks come, he occasionally takes a play off in the first quarter. You can't not if you're a pass rusher. The point is, in the fourth quarter, in overtime, in playoff games, in the fucking Super Bowl, of which he was the MVP, of which I bet through mybookie.ag on the prop that he was going to be the MVP at 22-1. He can't be stopped when it counts.
Yep, he's a monster. He's also probably the guy who would want to be, skipping ahead to if we had to be in LA partying on Memorial Day. I'd probably be Von Miller too. I love his style. I mean, He's just got swagger galore.
So that's our. Usually we do it as our final question, but we're skipping ahead. Memorial Day weekend, the heart of the NFL offseason, Los Angeles, where everyone congregates to party during that time. Which NFL player in this division would you most want to trade places with for that weekend? You said Von Miller?
Philip Rivers. So many adorable children running around.
Yeah, you could wipe like 26 diapers over Memorial Day weekend. He doesn't even live in L.A. He drives back to San Diego every day. I'm going to go with Aqib Talib. My only worry would be about getting shot. But the only shooting that he's taken place recently has been him shooting himself in the leg. So, hey, it's a free country. You can shoot yourself in the leg if you want. Just don't hit me.
Agreed.
Talib would show you a good time.
100%. Really good time. Talk about somebody who's not afraid to imbibe as well.
Yeah, you get all fucked up. All right, real quick, we'll go through this. And Von Miller is also the guy you'd want on your team, right?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Or Derek Carr.
Carr or Miller, but I mean, it's hard not to take like your favorite player and put him on your team.
Agreed. Breakout player. I got Shane Ray. If Joey Bosa is too obvious, which I guess it is.
Interesting. I'm going to go with Tyrell Williams in the Chargers. I think he's going to have a really big year as their number 3 receiver and probably become their number 1 receiver when Keenan Allen inevitably gets hurt.
And my biggest disappointment is Paxton Lynch. Yours is?
Biggest disappointment this year? That's a good question. I don't really have one off the top of my head, so I'll go.
I think you mentioned it was a team earlier, the Chargers. I don't know if you mentioned on the air or off the air, but overall as a disappointment, I guess it depends what you're expecting from them. But the Chargers, Phillip Rivers, the whole offense.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are going to be a disappointment. You know why, Matt? Because they're always a disappointment. I think it's going to be a really shitty atmosphere that them playing in
people from
Parsons
who aren't from
Stadium.
LA don't realize how far they are away from downtown LA, how far they are away from the West Side. Their training facility has nothing to do with where they're playing. It's a disaster.
They're
Phillip
not
Rivers,
the Los Angeles Chargers, they're the Carson Chargers, and that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's not LA. Imagine if the team moved to Manhattan, but you had to go to Staten Island to watch them play. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And my fantasy sleeper is Chiefs wide receiver Chris Conley. I don't know if it'll be Alex Smith or probably not Patrick Mahomes, but I just think he's underrated in drafts and he's going to have a good year.
I like it. I like Conley. I'm still going to go with Trevor Siemian. I think he could randomly be like not a great fantasy QB, but in the right matchups, like 3-4 touchdowns, like guy wins you the game.
Perfect. That's the AFC West. He's Tim Livingston. I'm Matt Keller. We're previewing the NFL on the Quickie podcast, and we'll be back soon. This is the Quickie podcast, and we're continuing to preview the NFL season division by division. Today we are doing the AFC North. He's Tim Livingston, founder, CEO, editor-in-chief of TheLead, and a noted Browns fan. And I am Matt Keller, managing editor of TheLead.
Noted Browns fan. God, I hope that's not on my tombstone.
No, it'd be noted Tribe fan before noted Browns fan.
It'd be noted Tribe fan and reluctant Browns fan.
Fair enough. Okay, the AFC North is always fun. So much shit going on. Besides your Browns, every team has a chance to win the division. Baltimore's all over the place. Pittsburgh's a mainstay. Cincinnati has a quarterback who couldn't lead a fucking stampede of ants up a hill.
Well, fire ants he could.
Yes.
Get it? Redhead? Anyways, we're not big Dalton fans in this podcast, in case you didn't know.
What's the best unit in this division?
I think Pittsburgh's offense.
Me too. I thought about it for a while, and then I was like, it has to be. No, they're getting Bryant back, and if they get Bell, it depends when Bell comes back, but loaded for Bear, that offense is sick.
They look nasty this year.
Winner of the division. Steelers as well?
I still have Steelers, yeah, with Cincy and Baltimore both coming in around 10-6, 9-7.
Yeah, I got Pittsburgh at 12-4.
I have Pittsburgh at 11-5, but I think
Baltimore is the wild card here because they've won a Super Bowl with basically not the same team. There's so much turnover in the NFL, but same coach, QB. Is Flacco just not good, or is he an Eli Manning who is a average regular season QB and occasionally has a great playoffs? Like I
don't know. I think Flacco is skilled. I think Baltimore the last couple of years has been the epitome of the NFL offense that does not think outside the box. I've seen very basic bitch play calling.
They've had like 9 offensive coordinators.
Yeah, so Marty Morningwig, Jim Caldwell, Kubiak was probably the best of the last decade for them. Cam Cameron, and yeah, so
that's a lot.
and Tressman. So they've gone through a lot of mediocre offensive coordinators, and Harbaugh really hasn't thought outside the box much there. So we'll see how they do year two under the offensive mastermind Marty Morningwig.
Which annoys me because I always think, well, it doesn't annoy me because I hate the Ravens. And, I mean, talk about hypocritical not signing Kaepernick when you have Terrell Suggs and Ray Rice and Ray Lewis, but we're not getting into that today. I don't like the Ravens, but I do consider John Harbaugh to be a good coach.
And a good guy.
Am I wrong about him being a good coach?
I've always liked Harbaugh.
I consider him to be a top 5 coach.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh's a fantastic coach. I think he's a good X's and O's coach. I think he's a good leader. Everything he says, for the most part, is, in my eyes, for the most part, intelligent. I don't really remember what he said about Kaepernick or why they...
Well, he wanted them, the fucking, hypocritical owner who goes golfing all the time with Goodell at Augusta National. He's the one who didn't want Kaepernick. Shocking.
Shocking.
I think Harbaugh, to your point, was basically like, I'll call my brother. I'll see what kind of guy Kaepernick is. The reviews came back glowing. Is he a good quarterback? Is he the kind of guy who'll be a good backup for this team who can step in? Yes. He trusts his brother most of all. He wanted to sign him as a backup. I think it's as simple as that, or at least give him a shot.
Yeah.
So the owner came in. But I guess my question before we hop into the rest of these questions real quick is, do we punish Harbaugh as a coach, as a head coach, for the inconsistency the last couple of years and the inability to have an outside-the-box offense that's consistent?
A little bit. But for the most part, I think this is another it's a big year for Harbaugh, just like it's a big year for Eli Manning, right? If he has another down year, then all of a sudden he's going to be in the hot seat, and rightfully so. If he has a bounce-back year, then he's good for the next 3 or 4 years. So it's a big year for the franchise in general. And it's a big year for Harbaugh.
Player you would pay to watch in this division?
Man, Myles Garrett. Can I do
I like that.
Can I do a guy from my team? Myles Garrett. I'm really excited about him.
Hasn't played yet, but
yeah. I mean, or Jabril Peppers. I mean,
everything I hear about Garrett is that it's like if he doesn't work out, it's just going to be luck or fluke or injury.
It's going to be like Clowney's first year, where it was just a bad bulky knee.
Yeah.
So,
and Clowney's a beast now.
Yeah, and so we're very high on Garrett, and rightfully so. The guy's a monster.
I'll go with an easy cop out here. Antonio Brown, closest thing we've ever seen to Jerry Rice. We're not even appreciating how good he is. Roethlisberger's good, but guys like him make Roethlisberger even better.
Yeah.
So a non-Brown from this division that you'd most want to have on your team. With the Browns, it's not that hard, but
non-Brown player.
Well, yeah, would it be Roethlisberger? He's 34, 35. He might retire next year. Would it be Antonio Brown? Would it be a defensive guy? It's kind of an interesting question.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. None of the quarterbacks intrigue me for the short term or the long term. I'm really interested. I think Roethlisberger's actually going to have a good year, although a lot of people are skeptical because he was kind of talking about retiring.
Oh, he's a fucking prima donna drama queen who talks about that shit all the time. I promise you he's not retiring anytime
prima donna,
soon.
rapist,
yeah, I
drama
forgot that part.
queen, Ben Roethlisberger.
Which doesn't mean that he's not a great leader in the huddle, as we've seen on Hard Knocks the last couple of weeks.
No, and him and Winston and these guys.
And whoever else we don't know about.
Exactly. God complexes are a real thing. So the one guy that I'd most like to have on the Browns that isn't probably the entire rosters of either three of these teams. Can I just take the entire Steelers offense, the entire Bengals defense, Baltimore's linebacker core, whoever?
Antonio.
Yeah, I think Antonio's my guy. It's hard. Yep. It's hard to pass him up. He's the best receiver I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, I had a hard time. Best receiver you've seen in your adult lifetime.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
So not better than Jerry Rice. But to me, Randy Moss was the second best after Jerry Rice. Brown's the third. He's the closest thing I've ever seen to Jerry Rice.
Randy was incredible too. He's
the Kobe to Jerry Rice as Kobe is to Jordan.
Same as Jerry Rice and Jordan for me are guys I couldn't truly appreciate because I was too young. But yes, Randy Moss and now Antonio Brown are just otherworldly.
Well, yeah, we're right about the same age. We both remember the tail end of Rice and Jordan's career, but we weren't adults in the prime of it, unfortunately. Player I'd want on my team. It's hard. Once again, I'm picking for the Patriots, so they don't need that much. I tend to go for these guys who can create problems rushing from the interior. So I have Geno Atkins, who was the sack leader in the AFC North last year, despite being an interior lineman. He's probably the guy. You can always use run stoppers. You can always use guys who blow up the pass rush from the middle. That's how you beat the Patriots. That's how you beat many teams. The only other guys I would consider is two Ravens defenders, Jimmy Smith and C.J. Mosley.
I like Smith.
Yeah. Or, I guess Joe Thomas. You can never have enough left tackles, but Solder's pretty good, so I'll leave it at that. Breakout player. This isn't breakout player and disappointing player are interesting on this one, I think. Who do you have as breakout?
It's tough. This division's really tough for breakout player. There's a lot, but all these offenses have been solidified for the most part, minus the Browns, which is an absolute clusterfuck, as you know. So I don't know. My breakout player, maybe Cody Kessler?
I'm going with Kaiser. Good. We each got a Browns QB. I think one of them will look good.
I think so, too.
And I actually liked both of them going into the draft, so I think there's things to write home about there. Disappointment.
Dalton? Probably.
I get Jamie Collins.
Interesting.
One of my favorite players. But what he's going to be asked to do in the contract he's going to get, or already got, I believe, is going to make the expectations on him higher than they should be. Therefore, people will be disappointed. There's a reason Belichick dumped him in the middle of a Super Bowl winning year for basically a third-round pick.
Yeah.
Even though I like him a lot. Fantasy sleeper?
I don't know. Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, are those guys sleepers? I would take them 1 and 2, and they're right now going 2 and 4. For fantasy sleeper, I got, guess what? Another shitty team's number one receiving option, Corey Coleman for the Browns. I actually think he could have a huge year this year.
Yeah, even if Kessler ends up starting all 16 games, I think, or if Kaiser comes in, Brock Osweiler won't be the answer. But
Brock is going to be nowhere near the field.
Whoever's throwing it to them, to your point, they have to move the ball, and they'll be getting blown out in a ton of games. Like, watch a Patriots game sometime. If they're up 28-0 in the first half, they give up 300 yards passing in the second half. Someone has to catch them.
Yep.
I have Jesse James, tight end, Pittsburgh, Martavius Bryant, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. The entire team basically will be clearing out space all day for over the middle for him to come in. And the person you want to trade places with on Memorial Day weekend in Los Angeles, a.k.a. the heart of the offseason. Who has the most fun?
How about A.J. Green?
I got Josh Gordon, baby. I don't care if he's on suspension. Still in the league. Still in the league.
And he's actually right now doing exactly what this scenario is.
Exactly,
and
but we're
in August.
Yeah.
So yeah, Josh Gordon, you're right. Sometimes this is a selective process, but sometimes that selection is just right, and you're right.
If it wasn't trading places, if it was just hanging out with, I would pick Desmond Bryant from the Browns because he's the best guy I've met in the NFL.
Harvard-educated defensive lineman / Matt interned with this dude
Oh yeah, I did. He did sit next to me during an internship in college in Boston, and nicest, most down to earth, smart, funny. Just happens to be 6'6", 290 pounds of pure muscle. And on that note, thanks again for listening. Thank you so much for listening to the Quickie podcast from TheLead Sports. This episode has been brought to you by MyBookie. Football season's upon us. Soccer season is too. They're fun to gamble on. You go to mybookie.ag, type in the code LEAD50, LEAD 50, all capital letters, to get a 50% deposit bonus when you sign up. They're giving away free money to first-time sign-ups. You might as well take advantage of it. And you can follow us at TheLead, at TheLead Sports on Twitter, at TheLead Sports on Instagram. If you go to that big company that Mark Zuckerberg once started in a Harvard dorm room and follow us, you'll see all our new material every weekday. Same with our website, theleadsports.com. And most importantly, you can go to theleadsports.com and sign up for our critically acclaimed newsletter, The Quickie, the same name as this podcast, to get the modern version of the sports page in your inbox every morning. It's 3 minutes, it's funny, it's quick, it's quirky, it's entertaining, it's insightful, and it gives you everything you need to know about the day in sports to begin your day. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us. And no matter where you're listening, please share this episode. Thanks again.